Welcome back. So, amazing news. I finished my sketchbook. Thank you. This was not an easy thing for me. This took me just over a year to finish. I think I started it in April of last year. And I'm just so proud of myself that I can finally call it done. And for those of you who this is the first video you're watching of mine, I have not finished a sketchbook in about 10 years, actually probably over 10 years now. And I'm just glad that I was able to do this because it was one of my goals for the year and now it's done. So without further ado, I'm going to take you through my sketchbook and do a little sketchbook tour, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so first things first, I just wanted to talk about the type of sketchbook that I have. This is a very plain, very basic sketchbook. It's not really meant for anything other than pencil, crayon, or pencil. I just ignored all that and I just used this sketchbook however I wanted to use it. So you'll see a lot of buckling happening throughout the sketchbook. I do really like spiral bound sketchbooks just because it's easier for me to lay my sketchbook flat and not really have it continuously keep popping up. So the first page of my sketchbook, I really just wanted to decorate the kind of inside cover. So I have some things here that friends have given me or I've just made and put in my sketchbook. I have a little sticker here of Michael Scott. Prison Mike, if you know, you know. It did kind of print a bit weird. There's like this smudge underneath his nose, but I honestly don't care. I have a little painting that I did here of an onion. I really loved this painting. I just felt like it was one of those things that I knocked off so quickly. I think it maybe took me 15 minutes and I just love the way it turned out. It's very loose. It's just, the colors are really nice. Nice contrast as well. I also have a little sketch that I did on some scrap piece of paper of Lucy. Lucy, I have tried to draw her so many times and I have hated every single time that I have drawn her. I just don't feel like I did a good job with it. And this is like an okay drawing I've done of her, but you'll see throughout the book there's a lot of bad drawings of Lucy in here. I also have this little print that I kind of made on canvas. I saw this TikTok where this girl was talking about that you can print your own art on canvas using just a regular printer. And I tried doing that. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't. It was really kind of like a trial and error thing. On the very first page that I did of drawings, I have just a bunch of drawings of hands. For those of you who are artists out there, you know how challenging it is to draw hands. It's one of the most challenging things ever, I think, for most artists. And I was definitely struggling a lot with it, especially trying to get back into drawing after not doing it for so long. It took me like 3 hours to do these 3 pages. Some of my favorite hands, I think, are number 17. Number 16 isn't bad, it just doesn't feel fully done to me. Number 14, I kind of like that one. Number 20 isn't horrible either. The next page, I did a little weave of something that I had printed. It also printed really weird. I think we had like run out of ink in our printer. It's 2 different images. One of them is some flowers inside a bottle, and then the other image is of a map. Where is that map going? I don't know, but I just kind of weaved them together and I liked the way they looked together, so I decided to stick it in here. On this page, I have a little drawing of Lucy. I don't love this drawing of Lucy. I just feel like it doesn't really look like her. And then also I just wasn't super happy with how the paper was taking the gouache / watercolor that I used on here. This was my first time testing out it and I was like, oh, this is bad. I should have known it was bad. I should have felt that it was bad. But this was the moment I realized, oh, this is not good paper for what I want to do. I have some shishiko patterns on this page that I was just learning about and the different types of stitches. I also made myself a little pocket and I just put scrap paper in there just to use whenever I needed it. This is a little drawing I did, or I guess painting / drawing I did of a tomato. I don't mind the tomato itself, but everything else that's going on around the tomato, I don't know what happened. It was just kind of like ugly. I think I was just experimenting. So something I really like to do is take color swatches from like hardware stores because they're free, and just kind of like make up some palettes and things like that. This is something that I used to do really often. Not so much anymore, honestly. But yeah, these are just like little kind of palettes. A lot of them are just like monochrome mixes in here. I also have a quote here by Alan Watts that I wrote down. It says, "There is simply no problem in life. It is absolutely purposeless play. It doesn't have to continue. There is no reason whatever to explain it. For explanations are just another form of complexity, a new manifestation of life on top of life. Gestures gesturing." I kind of like this quote just because I can get kind of existential sometimes. I think it's almost just important to me to remember that I don't always have to be doing things for my life to have purpose. I think sometimes just the purpose of being a human being is to live your life and be alive and just be in a way. And sometimes I kind of just struggle with that. I feel like I always need to be doing things all the time. So I really enjoyed that quote. On this page, I have a lot of eyes. I was kind of doing the same thing that I was doing with the hands, where I was trying to draw a bunch of eyes in different directions. And there are a lot of eyes in this sketchbook. I didn't realize how much I drew eyes, but I do really enjoy drawing them. Some of my favorites from this kind of page of drawing eyes are number 12, number 6, and number 4. But I don't really have any eyes that I dislike really on this page. I think they're all pretty well done. On the next page, I was thinking that it would be interesting to do something where the eyes were the focal point. So I kind of drew this girl just pulling down the bottom lids of her eyes and have that the focus. The flowers at the bottom are some stickers that my friend gave me, and I just kind of put them in there. I really like drawing in ballpoint pen. I just have these like little Bic pens that I use. It's really nothing too intense. This page, I wanted to do a bit of an experiment, so I did some drawing with my Posca pencil crayons. I'll show those on screen right now so you guys can see what they are. I really like the Posca pencil crayons. They're very vibrant and very soft, but I did a drawing, a little portrait with that, and then I wanted to kind of do a bit of an ink wash over that, but I used way too much ink. There's parts of it that look a little bit cool, but most of it just kind of looks like a mess to me. At the bottom, more stickers that my friend gave me that I kind of just put down here. On the other page, I have some notes that I was writing for a painting I was going to create that I never actually finished. Classic me. But I was just writing some things that would influence what I could write in my artist statement and what the painting was about. I really love the apple on this page. I just feel like, again, it was just one of those things that I pulled off very quickly, and I think it was like I did this maybe less 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It was just something so quick and felt so easy. I love how loose it is. I love how just gestural it kind of is. And it is on Terraskin paper. For those of you who don't know what Terraskin paper is, it's pretty good actually for oil paint. You don't need to gesso it. It's paper that is made out of stone, and it's a fairly new kind of paper. I also have some little sketches down here of Lucy. I don't really actually mind these sketches of Lucy. They're, again, like very loose gestural sketches, but I kind of like them. I think in my mind it does kind of get her essence. On the other page, I have just some little doodles. I was also just kind of experimenting a little bit more to get to know my Posca pencil crayons, you know, see how they would blend and things like that. Yeah, just little doodles and ideas here. This page is a bunch of magnets I was thinking of making. I still may make them because I feel like I always need more magnets, and I do enjoy the process of making magnets. It just is a bit time consuming. I was really enjoying how dark I could get my pencil crayons, and I was kind of living for that. This pencil drawing is a little drawing of Lucy. I don't love drawing in pencil. I don't know why. And I also don't really love this drawing of Lucy. It just doesn't exactly look like her, and I feel like her eyes are a bit too far apart. I also think that it could benefit from having more contrast, so just some more darks and some more lights in there. This page is definitely one of my favorite pages in my sketchbook, but it did take me a very long time to finish. I didn't do it all in one sitting. I think I did it over the course of a few weeks. Really loved this page, and it started kind of getting me into using Posca pencil crayons. This is when I started getting really excited about it. Only had a few of these. I mean, I still only have a few of them. I think I have like 7 different colors, but I felt like I could get a really nice range with those 7 different colors. And then I also felt like they all went together so nicely despite being pretty different from each other. Something I'll also say is I don't typically use black a lot in general. It doesn't matter if I'm drawing or if I'm painting, I will normally use blue to kind of create shadow. Part of the reason I do that is because I just really like the color and how that color can bring out other colors, whereas sometimes I feel like black can make it look more flat, I guess. So I do a lot of my shading in blue. The only black that I used on this page was the different kind of marks I was making underneath the watermelon and where the drapery is. This next page, I really like the portrait I did. I like that I added some ink around the silhouette of the portrait, and then I also like that I added green in the highlight kind of areas of this portrait. I'm a big fan of putting red and green together as complementary colors. I think it can be quite dangerous sometimes because those colors are obviously really associated with Christmas, but I really do enjoy how they look together. And I also like that I did this kind of scribbly background. It feels like there's an energy to the drawing that I really liked. And then on the next page, I really love the way that I did the lemon here. At first, I felt like I was kind of ruining it when I was trying to shade, but then the more I started working on it, the more I was like, no, I'm doing fine. And I used blue to kind of do a lot of the shading in there and then surrounded the background in black. I think that blue and yellow can be quite nice together, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to use blue instead of black. I like the way I did the shells of the egg as well. They just look like very simple and quickly drawn shells, and I can tell what they are, which is nice, so they're not just like these abstract little circles. I kind of like this page. I mean, there's things I like about it, things I don't like about it. Honestly, looking at it now, I'm like, she looks like she's kind of in prison. I like that I have some blues and oranges, some complementary colors going on in there. And then I also just like these kind of lines that I did around the figure and how the lines are changing color. They're pink and then they turn to yellow and then back to pink and then to red. I really like the way I did the flowers as well when they overlap with these orange kind of bars. The flowers kind of change into more of like an orangey flat flower, and then the petals go back to being a little bit more detailed once they're out of that orange. I also drew a lot of bugs in the background. A lot of them are hard to see, so it's one of those things you really have to take a look at. Yeah, I was pretty happy with this page when I made it. These next 2 portraits, the one with the orange and blue is one of my followers. On my TikTok, I was doing this trend where I was drawing my followers for a while, and you'll see a few other portraits of my followers in here as well. This person was also an artist, and they use a lot of orange and blue in their work, and I thought it would be really fitting to kind of choose those colors for their portrait. I don't love that you can see where there's pencil crayon line that has kind of like overlapped on this page from previous pages, and it's because I don't typically work in chronological order when I'm drawing in my sketchbook. Like if I want to just go back and randomly start drawing on a page, I will, and this was kind of one of those instances where I put this page kind of in a little bit later on. Some of the other layers kind of like transferred onto this page, so you can see little markings on it. I don't like that. I feel like it's like kind of distracting to the drawing, but again, I did choose a cheaper kind of paper when going with the sketchbook, so I feel like I can't complain too much. The other portrait I really like. I like just how vibrant the red is in the background and the nice blues and browns. It just feels very cohesive. I think that the proportions are all good. I love how much contrast there is in the drawing. Yeah, overall pretty happy with this portrait. I feel like this page is a little bit weird. Like both pages are weird, but I'll start with the tiger. I kind of drew that and then I just didn't like where the drawing was going, and I was just also over it. I didn't want to finish the drawing, so I just kind of left it how it was. Eventually I printed off some clouds and then I just taped these clouds at the bottom there. I don't really mind the way it looks, but also it was just kind of like something I felt like I needed to save. This other page I just felt like kept going wrong. I think at first I added the pomegranate and then I just wasn't really into the way that it was looking, and then I added the rabbit and the rabbit looked more like a rat, and then I was like, ugh, I hate it. And that's when I wrote that little bit that says a rat or a rabbit will never know. I chose to cover up the rabbit with a sticker, again, that my friend had given me. And overall, I just kind of think like this page is like a weird mess. I think I hated it a lot more when I first did it than I do now. Now I'm just like, it's not that bad. But at the time that I had created it, I was like, what is going on? This was another portrait where I was drawing my followers. This person was also an artist. I had some really soft pink that you might be able to see in it, and then I went over it in blue. I just think that soft pink looks really nice. And I just felt like it was just kind of this interesting thing to pull the drawing together. This next page I thought was the worst page I had ever created in my sketchbook ever. I was kind of just feeling very inspired by cottagey images. I had recently, at the time, just gone on a little cottage getaway, and I just was really enjoying the summer and nature, and I wanted to kind of make a little drawing inspired by those things, but I also wanted to create an interesting composition on my page. So I decided to divide up my page into these little squares and then have different drawings within these squares. I just don't think a single drawing looks good, like maybe the bird drawing, but none of the other ones. Like I don't like the deer, I don't like the landscape I did of a lake. I think that I just needed to dedicate more time to it, and I didn't do that, and it looks kind of amateur to me. At the time I was like, wow, this is the worst thing I've ever made. I was definitely being very dramatic about that. I really love this page. It's definitely one of my favorites in my sketchbook. I just feel like I did a really good job in a lot of different areas. So, you know, in regards to creating enough contrast and then also blending my pencil crayons really well. I like that I did these lines around the fruits and vegetables just to bring them out even more. I just think that everything looks so cohesive and so nice together. I also love the composition. I love that there's like this branch with fruit kind of diagonally cutting the page in half. Big fan of this page. This is a self-portrait that I did. I normally do at least one self-portrait in my sketchbook every time I make a sketchbook. Something that I had been thinking about a lot at the time is not treating my entire drawing exactly the same. And what I mean by that is just not making the same marks over and over again. And so I really wanted to, you know, treat the hair differently than the background and make sure that I was making a big distinction between them and not just, you know, doing the entire background using my pencil crayon, just going straight up and down. I just kind of wanted to go in different directions. And same thing with the hair. I wanted to go in different directions to kind of create this idea of form and structure, and that the hair was turning and flipped. On the page next to it, some of my pencil crayon again kind of rubbed off onto it, and so you can see parts of the previous fruit page, but it's all in red, and I kind of love that. I think that it creates like this nice little imprint, and like I think it looks very cool. Unlike the way that it did when I was doing the portrait, just having a blank page with this kind of imprinted on it, I think looks kind of nice. This page was a photograph that I had from Christmas when I was a baby. So I found this photograph within my pile of family photographs and decided to use it as a reference for a drawing. This was when we lived at our old apartment and eventually moved out to a house. Yeah, there's just like a lot of stuff going on, a lot of chaos, presence. I like that the drawing has this nostalgic feeling to it, or at least that's kind of the feeling I get when I'm looking at it. I did use a lot of black in this drawing, and one of the reasons I did that is because a lot of photographs that are family photographs that are taken on film, I've noticed, have very graphic look to them. They have a lot of shadow, they're very contrasted normally, and they appear really flat. So I did use black a lot in this drawing to kind of give it that look. This next page, I did a bunch of fruit studies in oil paint on canvas paper. I kind of like the way a lot of them turned out, although I don't like the way that they look on the page cut out. I think maybe it would have been a bit better if I had just left them not cut out and just left them on the canvas paper. Some of these appear a bit too dark to me, and I don't love that. So for example, the strawberry, the clementine, and the orange pepper, they just look way too dark. I think partly the reason was because I was working with a limited palette and I was really challenging myself to not use too many colors. So not a lot of room there to make it brighter. I do like the way that the lemon and the sliced orange look. I think that those turned out really well. The sliced orange, I like that the background kind of has this gray blue and then it's mixed with this orange. I think that's kind of beautiful. And then I like the yellow has this like greeny blue in the background. It just like the colors just look so harmonious together. This next page, I kind of really like this tomato. I think like it's one of my better studies that I had done. In the background, there's some pink post-it notes that I just stuck it on top of, and I think it kind of looks a little bit cool. I also have some other things I stuck in here, one of them being a ticket to a lacrosse game I went to. I also stuck in this print I kind of made of one of my paintings. I think that it kind of turned out really nice. And then I have some flowers that I drew with my Posca pencil crayons. They turned out okay, not my fave, but they're okay. And I also have this little quote here that says, "When it's time to let go fully." And I got that from a podcast I was listening to called Artist Decoded. It was this photographer interviewing a martial artist, and he said that, and I thought, wow, he's right. When it's time, it's time. So I just kind of stuck that in my book. These next two portraits are another one of my Drawing My Followers. Both of these girls are artists as well. I didn't realize actually that I drew so many artists and that so many artists are following me on TikTok, but I think it's kind of nice. One of the things I kind of don't like about this blue portrait I did is just that there's so much buckling from the previous page. I don't mind the red portrait. I like that it actually looks like the person I was trying to draw. I think that I just wish that I did it a lot bigger on the page instead of this small, tiny drawing. Another page of Drawing My Followers, the portrait in red, one of the girls reached out to me and asked me if I would draw her, and I was like, yeah. I don't like that you can see a line that kind of like goes through her nose/mouth, and that's just some rub off of the pencil crayon, because again, I don't work in chronological order in my sketchbook, so sometimes that can happen. The other portrait is of another artist that follows me on TikTok, and I reached out to her and asked her if I could draw her, and she was super nice about that. I also just like the blue and the orange together in her hair. I think that looks really nice. This next portrait is another follower that I drew on TikTok. I really like this drawing in particular just because it was just one of those drawings where I started it, I finished it so quickly, and I was like, wow. Really just kind of like whipped that out. I also thought that it would be maybe a little bit challenging for me to make the face paint on her face look like face paint, but I think I did a pretty good job with that. This next page was me becoming obsessed with Marcus. If you know, you know. I kind of made a little TikTok where I just like drew him in different positions. It's so hard and weird to explain, but I drew like 3 pages of this and made a TikTok of it. I think it was also interesting to draw something from different angles and different positions. That's Marcus. This next page is just a bunch of fruit. I was really feeling very summery at this time in my life, and fruit was something that I just felt so relaxed while drawing it. I really like the way that the red pepper turned out and the tomato. They just seem really well shaded to me. I also like that unintentionally I divided up the page between red and green, so the tomato and the red pepper being on one side, the lime, avocado, and chili being on the other side. And I just love that like my mind just did that without me thinking about it at all. This page I really just wanted to draw some animals. I like how most of them turned out. I think that the page just kind of feels like a random jumble a little bit. I don't feel like it feels super cohesive, but I do like that I was just trying to draw different things. I like the way that the frog turned out. I like the way that the wolf turned out. I think maybe I could have done a little bit better job on the rooster and the fish and the leaf. I do like these red lines that I did off to the side. I'm kind of noticing that I do that a lot within my work, is kind of like adding these like thick flat bars, just one kind of color in these drawings. And yeah, I think that's cool. I also think that it's cool that I did some outlining around the cherries as well, something that I'm noticing that I do a lot. I really struggle with drawing skulls. This skull was really hard for me to draw. I don't know why it's so challenging for me when I can draw portraits pretty okay. And when I was drawing this skull, I kept just readjusting things over and over and over again until I was like, we gotta stop. Like I had done way too much to it, and I felt like I was getting to the point where there wasn't really too much more I could fix about it. One of the reasons I added the Sharpie around it was because of all of that readjusting I had done. I had wanted to cover that up and just, not kind of show my mistakes. And then around the skull, I added some facial features, and I just thought it was interesting to think about what's below your facial features and how your bone structure kind of influences the way your facial features work. So I just drew some eyes, some noses, an ear, mouth. So I really don't like this page. There's something about it that just does not feel like me at all. Feels very collage-y to me, although I do have a lot of drawings that are kind of collaged references that are on the same page, but sometimes I feel like I do a good job of linking them all together, whereas this does not feel like that for me. It doesn't feel like anything is super connected to each other. It just feels like random things that I kind of stuck together. This was one of those drawings I was really thinking of ripping out, but then I was like, just let it be. Like, sometimes, you're just gonna make bad stuff, and that's just the way it goes. And it's better to just kind of accept that not everything you're going to do is perfect. And I really do try to keep that in mind when I'm working in my sketchbook, because I think it's important to know that, like, I can't make a good drawing every time. And a sketchbook is just showing you what you're like randomly, in a way. Like, some days you have good days and some days you have bad days, and each page is kind of a reflection of those and then everything in between those as well. And in that way, it just feels a lot more personal. I feel way more connected to my sketchbook when I see things like this, because it's more of a representation of me than me putting out something where every single page is 100%. In reality, I'm not 100% every day, and no one is. So it's good for me to see pages like this and leave pages like this in my sketchbook. This next page I also dislike. I was just struggling a lot with drawing that day. I also dislike how small the portrait is on the page. I just love working like bigger when it comes to portraits, but sometimes I just have this problem where I'll just randomly start drawing a very small portrait when I have all this room to work with on my page. I oddly really like this page. I like the blue-green girl. I just think that the colors look really nice together. I like that there is like this green going into the yellow and then the blue and the pink in the background. It just feels so connected. Everything just feels like it goes together very harmoniously. I also think portrait-wise, it looks really good. Like, everything is in proportion. I wasn't really struggling with the portrait at all. I just kind of knocked it out very quickly. I also really like the eye that I did at the bottom in the blue scrap paper. I was able to add white highlights on top of this drawing, where every page in the sketchbook is white, so I can't really add white to it. I just have to leave that area blank, and that will be my white, my highlight. But with this, I got to add white on top of it, and I really like doing that. Really don't like this page. I feel like I was in the middle of the sketchbook very much struggling to get through it. So I think in the middle I was making some bad drawings, but every single drawing, like I was saying earlier, of Lucy, kind of really don't like. Like, this drawing looks really weird. Her eyes are going in different directions. Like, it's just a weird drawing of her. I think the reason Lucy is so hard to draw is because her body is very like long and weird. So sometimes I feel like it's just hard to make it look normal. Not me body shaming my dog on my YouTube channel, but yeah, I was just kind of like struggling with drawing her. This drawing I really liked when I did it. I still kind of like it. One of the things I like about it is that I again had the scrap piece of paper, and the pink part of the paper, I like that I used that specifically for the face. It just gives a warmth to the drawing. And then adding that blue to more of like her neck and her head area, I feel like it just gives like this nice balance to the drawing that I really like. I like the blue that I added in the background where her face is, so that it brings out her face even more and pushes back that part of the background. Another kind of drawing I really don't like, again, I think partly I just don't like using pencil. So right away we were off to a bad start. And then again, I did that thing where I just put a portrait very small in the center of the page and was like, okay, like now what? The portrait itself isn't awful. I think that I have like a lot of contrast, some nice values going on. I just don't like the way compositionally I've been putting small little portraits in the middle of pages. And it's just something I want to be a little bit more aware of. I kind of like this page. There's just like a lot of really nice things going on with each portrait. I like the red and black that I added to the girl on the bottom left. I felt like those colors just look really nice together. And then the pinks and blues in Keira Knightley's character. Oh, I meant to say Natalie Portman, not Keira Knightley. My bad. Anyway, after I did this page, I kind of started thinking, oh, it would be good for me to do more portraits of people from film and cinema, because usually they're lit really nicely and there's a lot of interesting colors going on in those. So the next page, I did a bunch of people from film and cinema. I don't actually love a lot of these portraits, mainly because I think it's just I didn't add enough contrast to them, so it feels like they're all just kind of washed out. And yeah, I just think I could have done a bit of a better job with that. My favorite one that I did is definitely Adam Brody, but I don't really love any of the other ones too much. I also felt like I was like fighting my page a little bit, and it was getting like a bit squished with all of these different portraits. So I don't love that, like compositionally don't love that. But again, it's fine, not a terrible page. This page I just don't love. I started drawing some cuttings from some plant I was trying to propagate. I was doing it from life. I haven't done life drawing in honestly a pretty long time. This just looks very bad to me. Because I hadn't been practicing it, I lost that skill a little bit, so I definitely need to do more life drawing this year. And I think that's something that I'm going to be focusing on in my next sketchbook. Also, the portrait that I did at the bottom here, it looks a bit weird. I was trying to do some shadows and then also show that the rest of her face was in very bright highlight, but I don't think it quite looks like that. Some more fruit here. I think that it would have been better if I added more shadow just to create more contrast. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. I do kind of like the way that I did the apple. It looks three-dimensional to me. It looks round and I like that. But I think all of the other fruits here fall a little bit short of that. Absolutely hate this page. I was trying to take an image, make it into a grid, and then hopefully once I finish the grid, you'd be able to see the full image. You definitely cannot tell what this is, but it is a car driving through the mountains. It also doesn't feel like me. I was definitely trying to try something new here, but as I started working on it, I was like, this process is not for me. I don't typically use a grid in any sort of way. And if I do use a grid, it's such a loose grid that I will use. I am just not the type of person where adding that structure makes things easier for me. If anything, it does make things a little bit more challenging, because I feel like it just goes against what I'm used to, what feels natural to me. Anyway, that is my rant about grids. I hope you loved it. This next page I do kind of like. I think there's like a lot of interesting stuff going on here. For instance, the tomato kind of reminds me of those topical geographic images you see of like mountains sometimes. And I thought that was interesting to apply that to a tomato. I really like the way that that looks and the way that that turned out. I don't even know what fruit I was trying to draw when I drew this. Maybe it was like a lemon or something. But I liked that I really drew where the shadow and where the midtones were. There is like some hard shapes in there, really differentiating between the two of those. And it kind of makes it look like a cutout or like very flat. And then the bananas, I just like the way that that looked. I felt like, again, it was like looked very structured, but also you can kind of tell like it does have some roundness to it. There's some hard lines going on in there and some hard shapes, but then yeah, it just looks very round. This is a portrait that I actually really like. I like the solid kind of colors that are outlining the portrait, the orange and then the blue, and then going into the portrait with a red. It feels like a shell, if that makes sense. Like the blue being the outside of the shell, the orange being like the inner part of the shell, and then the red being like the actual inside. That sounds very weird and abstract, and I'm sorry if that didn't fully make sense. I like the little stars that I added in the shirt. I think those look really cute. And And then doing this portrait kind of made me realize that I don't really draw a lot of men, and especially older men. So that's something that I just wanted to practice more of. So you'll see coming up in the next few pages, there's a lot of drawings of men, specifically older men. This next page, again, a drawing of an older man. I liked that I added some pink in it. Typically you don't see a lot of men drawn in pink, and I just liked that I added that, but I think it would have been a little bit more nicer if I had done the entire portrait in pink. I also added a little ticket stub that I got when I went to New York. I had kind of been holding on to this ticket stub for a while, and I just wanted to put it in something because sometimes I have a tendency to lose things. So I knew that putting it in my book, I was not going to lose it. It's another portrait of an older man. So because I had added that pink in the previous portrait, I was like, let's do a little bit more pink. So I did add pink to this portrait. A lot of areas are pink, but mostly I did the drawing in red and then added the pink on top. I really like the way that this portrait turned out. It's actually one of my favorites. I like the size that I did for it. And then I also just feel like everything looks pretty proportional. I do think that maybe I did the nose a bit long, but then I also feel like it kind of works at the same time. Like it doesn't look super strange or anything like that. So yeah, really love this portrait. I also love that I did some dark red outline just to bring it out even more. This page, I originally stuck this paper in because I was trying to cover up something else. I don't like this portrait. It looks so weird to me. She looks like a weird fish. But I was like, whatever, it's done. I put this in here and then just kind of moved on with my sketchbook and kept going. The page that is next to it is a photograph from Petra Collins. I've been a huge fan of Petra Collins for a long time now, and I'd had this image for maybe like 14 years, very long time, and I just kind of been holding on to it loosely in one of my other sketchbooks that I hadn't used yet. When I opened this specific page, I was like, wow, these these two pieces feel like they go together. I really like that they're both blue, but then also like the same size. They're both portraits, they're of women, and yeah, I just think that even the expressions on their faces are just kind of similar. So I liked that these felt like they go together, even despite that I didn't like the drawing that I did. This is another portrait of an older gentleman. I remember I did it when I was at a cafe, and I think I was just a little bit distracted with everything that was going on. Not a terrible drawing though. Honestly, it's just fine to me. Again, another portrait of an older man. I did kind of really like this when I did it, but I do feel like it could probably use more contrast, just like eyes, hair, mouth, definitely, and then maybe some on the neck and some on the clothing as well, just to bring it out a lot more. I do like the orange and the lime together though. I think that they kind of just look so electric together, and I think it's just like an interesting pairing that I did. I also think that this is just a well-drawn portrait. Everything is in proportion, and I didn't struggle too much creating this drawing. It really just came very easily. This drawing I kind of took a while with because originally I did the portrait and then I was like, oh, I have this tendency that I started noticing of doing small portraits in the center of the page. Didn't like it. I was also really struggling with the face. I just kept making mistakes and the proportions were really off, and I was just really frustrated overall. I decided to add a lot to the background, and I'm happy that I did. It does distract from the face a lot, but I kind of like that. This design that I kind of did in the background of these squiggling lines, I don't know, it just kind of draws me in, and I just like all of the different textures of it. I think there's just a lot of cute moments in this drawing, and I really like it. It was one of those things that it did take some time to come together, but I am happy with the way that it looks overall. I think it's like very interesting. Not super happy with this one, but this was also just like something I did super quickly. There's so many different things I could critique about it. It could use more contrast. I don't really like the way that the face is drawn. There's just like not enough value. I think I could darken the background a lot more. Yeah, I think that it's just very super quick kind of drawing, and it just needs more time dedicated to it, really. I remember when I first did this page, I was like, this is really interesting, like all of the different things I've added to the background, and like I think it's like a very interesting drawing, you know, like something that I could look at for a while. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't like this. It just doesn't compositionally feel very solid to me. I remember I had originally drawn something underneath this red circle at the bottom. I don't know what it was, but I just remember not liking it and wanting to cover it up, so I did. Really, it just feels like that circle should not be there. And yeah, the background just feels more chaotic and childish and not intentionally childish. This was another image that I found in one of my sketchbooks that I had been holding on to for a really long time. It was from the same magazine that the Petra Collins image that I was talking about earlier came from. There's a few Petra Collins images in here, just FYI. I don't think that this is Petra Collins. It does not look like her work, but I have no idea who the artist is, unfortunately. I also accidentally added some gesso to it, just like a streak of gesso, and I was like, that looks kind of interesting. I kind of like it. This next drawing, I really liked it at the time, but now I'm like not super crazy about it. It's just maybe I was getting a bit tired of drawing these portraits. I don't know. This would be more interesting of a drawing if I had added a lot more in the background, and I think that was originally my intention. I think if I would have done more blue and more little random drawings in the background, but fully gone for it, I think it would have looked pretty interesting. But I don't know, it feels boring in a way. It's not even that it's not done well. I think it is done well, but for some reason I just don't feel super compelled to look at this image for a long period of time. This was very random that this is here. But I was making a painting and I was looking at a lot of patterns. I had originally had a drawing here that I covered up with these sticky notes, and I was like, I'll add something, you know, I'll come back to it. And then I ended up, you'll see later, but I ended up cutting out this circle, and I was like, why put it to waste? Why can't I just like put it somewhere? So I put it here, but yeah, very random page, and it's just living here in my sketchbook. This is a drawing that I did of an older woman. I like all of the little shapes that I did in her face and for her glasses. The little shadows that it's casting on her face, I think look really interesting. If I'm being picky, I think I could have added more detail to her hair, but again, it's a nice drawing. I'm proud of it. Again, that circle that I was saying that I had cut out, this is the circle I'm talking about. And then I had done a little drawing inside of it. So I originally created this page and then added a Petra Collins page beside it. I felt like these two images kind of went together just because of all of the patterning that was going on in their clothing. I was like, wow, these kind of patterns feel very similar to me. The portraits I felt like also went together in a strange way. I just felt like these were two images that just belong together in my mind, and it makes sense. It feels so harmonious to me. The portrait I drew itself, I'm not super crazy about just because I could have done a better job with the perspective. It's supposed to be another perspective of us looking at someone from an above angle, so they're above us, but it just doesn't fully appear like that to me. This is when I started getting a little bit more into painting landscapes and just painting in general, and I wanted to include all of these paintings inside my sketchbook. This is a reference from one of my friends. They took this photo on a trip. Honestly, I don't know where. I really liked that I left a lot of that background red color in it, and that's something that I try to do with a lot of my other paintings in here. This is a drawing that I was really struggling with. I kept messing up the eyes over and over and over again. And then finally I was like, we need to fix this. So I included a little fortune that you get from fortune cookies and just pasted it over top of the eyes. It says, "Don't worry about money, the best things in life are free." I think it kind of just adds like this interesting little thing to the drawing, even though I was just trying to fix a mistake. There's some elements of this next page that I like and I dislike. I do actually like that I did put the face in the center of the page very small, and that is the first time, and I think the last time I'm ever gonna say that. I think it kind of works just because I added all of this extra detail around it, and that looks intentional. I think the flower details could be a little bit better, and also a lot more of them added would probably improve the picture, but I don't hate it or anything. This is another portrait that I did of an older gentleman. I kind of like it. I put some sticky notes at the top just to kind of add a little bit more balance to the picture. I like that there's like a solid kind of line of blue at the bottom and then this solid line of yellow at the top. I also like these little marks that I made with my pencil crayon. I actually really like this drawing I did of a crow. It reminds me a lot of the show Inuyasha. I don't know if anyone's watched that show, but that show had a huge influence on me growing up. But there's this episode where the crow takes the jewel, and that is the episode that the jewel becomes shattered. And the way that that crow is drawn in that show reminds me of the way that I drew this crow. I also just like the solid black that I did with ink in the background. It kind of looks like this little halo. This page feels a bit unfinished to me. I feel like it could use a little bit more in the background, especially at the bottom left. It just kind of feels a little bit empty. I like that there is like a lot of graphicness to it though. There's a lot of just black and white. This was me just practicing my hands again. I do kind of feel like they improved a bit since my very first page. Obviously, I still have a long way to go with my hand drawings, and I'm going to continue to practice and hopefully keep improving. I do like how loose and gestural these look though. I like this page. I think it looks very colorful and kind of fun. I like all of the little squares in the background. It reminds me of like old school 90s graphics for some reason. I also like both portraits that I did, and I think that I did the rose really nicely as well. In the bottom left, there's this like silhouette of a person, and I kind of just like how strange it is. Like this girl is looking at this silhouette. And I don't know, something about that, I just like it. I just like how mysterious it looks. These are some more landscapes that I painted. The first one being the tree. I really loved the way this tree turned out, and I love the reds in the background playing against the green of the tree. And then the lily pads with like this hot pink background. I started really getting into this hot pink color and utilizing it. I just think that, I don't know, it's just so vibrant and electric that I was like, whoa, I really want to get into using this a lot more. I also have some line drawings of blind contours I did of flowers at the top of the page. I find blind contours are good to just practice every once in a while because it gets you back into the habit of really looking at something. For those of you who don't know what a blind contour is, you're just drawing something with only looking at your reference image and not at your page. So I did a few of those, and then I also have another little tomato canvas here that definitely did not print well, but I kind of still liked the way it looked. I like that this page has a bunch of different birds drawn on it in all of these different positions. I think something that I really want to practice more in my next sketchbook is just drawing more subjects in different positions and really seeing something from every angle and learning how to draw from every angle. So yeah, I really love these little pen drawings that I included. I think the cicada looks really cool. And yeah, I don't really have many notes for this page. I like the way that it turned out. This is just a drawing of a vulture that I did. I really liked the way that the crow had previously turned out, and I wanted to do another drawing like that, but just a different bird. I don't love this one as much as I loved the crow drawing, but I still think it's a pretty good drawing. I like all of the hatching and cross hatching that I did in it. it and all of these like little details I included. These are some more birds just in different positions. I just wanted to continue practicing drawing the same subject just in different ways and different angles. This is a little painting I did of Lucy that I never finished. I genuinely don't think I'm ever going to finish it. I think that it was just not going in a way that I really wanted, and to me it doesn't really look like her. This was a photo I took of her when she was a puppy, and yeah, she was much more cuter than I painted her. In a lot of my previous sketchbook pages, I had often put together pencil, crayon, and pen together. I really don't normally think that those two things work together, but for some reason I felt like it always was working together in this sketchbook. I don't really have an explanation for that. I just love the way that I have like kind of mixed them in together. They look cohesive to me, even though I almost feel like they shouldn't. I like the little delicate details that I did in the portrait and on the little flowers and leaves in the ballpoint pen. And then I love the way that I was drawing the birds, specifically the red and pink bird. This page is okay. I feel like I more so like the way I drew the flowers rather than the bird. The bird somewhat seems a little bit messy to me, and the flowers look like just very solid and one continuous line, whereas the bird just feels like very sketched out, and I don't know if that looks quite nice together. I do like the colors though. I really like the red pencil crayon and then the blue ballpoint pen together. This is another drawing that I did of an older gentleman. I think this is the last portrait that I did of an older man. This one could benefit from some more contrast, but it again was just like kind of a little quick sketch I was throwing together. On the other side, we have Lucy sleeping. I did that from life, and I'm actually kind of proud of it, even though I didn't get a chance to finish it. I have a feeling that she can sense when I am painting her, and then as soon as she senses it, she's like, I need to move. So I didn't get to finish it, but I like the way that it looks, and then I started a few other Lucy drawings, but again, she was moving a lot. I think that this may be my favorite page in my entire sketchbook. I love the way that I did all the eyes, specifically the pink eye. There's just something so soft and delicate about it, and I love the way that it turned out. I love that I paired that with these pink roses as well. I love the little color scales that I have going to the side. Overall, just really like this page. I also had a scrap piece of paper of pink that just perfectly ended up matching the color of this pink eye, and I thought this would be a really nice thing to include in this page. And yeah, very cohesive, all harmonious, love the way it looks together. I started to really want to focus on structure in my drawings and how to make something look very round. So this was just me practicing that. You can see on the tangerine drawing that I did, I really broke things down into different planes and different angles, and then shaded those planes based off of dark, medium, and light. On the other fruits, I was really paying attention to that transition from dark to light and how that looks. This is another Lucy page. I was using a reference photo that I took of her. I don't like any of these. I think that I just need more practice maybe drawing her, but these were just some little sketches that I was doing to practice. This was a self-portrait I don't actually think looks like me. Even though it doesn't look like me, I still like the way it turned out. I just feel like it has an energy to it because of how quickly I drew it. I love all of this like movement in the hair and how I just treated everything kind of so roughly. Some more little paintings on this page. I like the eye that I painted with the red background at the top. I think that that looks really nice. The other two paintings with the lily pad and the landscape, I think could use just a little bit more attention. I think that if I honestly would have just spent 20 more minutes just kind of getting each painting together, it would have looked a bit nicer. That's okay. They were just little studies I did. I really like this page. I love the two landscape paintings that I did. I just kind of did both of them, I think, in a half hour. And it's always just nice when things like come together quickly and then they're fun to do as well. I was still using that hot pink for the background of a lot of my paintings. I used it in the bottom painting here with the lake/ocean. And in the top painting, I decided to go with a darker background. I think I used a purple. I didn't love the way that looked, so I ended up covering up most of that. Again, I have another little tomato print here, and then I have a little test that I did for one of my paintings. I was trying to do a gel transfer on raw canvas, and this is the last page in my sketchbook. I just wanted to do a little bit more painting in it. I think to me, painting is something that comes very naturally to me, way more naturally than drawing does. And I was really just having fun at this point doing these little paintings. And so I really just went for it on my last page. And I did a little frog, little tomato, some more fruit, and then this cute little landscape sunset. And that's the end of my sketchbook. Let me know in the comments if there is any pages that you all loved, and thank you for being here while I worked through this book. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to give it a like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.